Hello, people of Connecticut. My name is Selena Rifkin. I am here with my co-host, Jonathan Anderson, and we have a special guest today. This is Gino Digiovanni Jr., and he is here to talk to us about his experiences in the Capitol on a certain day in January of what year was that? Oh, God.
2021.
2021.
Thank you, because it seems like when did that happen? I don't even know. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is that there seems to be all of a sudden a few things coming out about J6, including Michael Fanone's body cam stuff is now out on, I know it's available to look at on X because that's where I saw it. And it doesn't quite agree with what he said happened in the Capitol, so I thought that would be interesting. And the president wanted to put out a nice $1.8 billion fund for people who had been railroaded by the government. And that, of course, has been thoroughly stalled. But even if it hadn't been, Senator Duff of Connecticut had said he was going to propose something that if anyone withdrew anything from that fund, they were going to tax it 100% in Connecticut.
Yep.
So, yay. And I did. I was driving through one of his neighborhoods, 2 nights ago, and I did see a ditch Duff sign. So that made my heart warm. So, Gino, I wanted you to tell us, and maybe start from the beginning. What made you decide you were going to be in the Capitol on that particular day?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say thank you guys very much for having me on, and I appreciate it. So back in 20 January 6th, right, of 2021, I was not heavily involved in politics at all. I always voted. I was always registered to vote, voted in, all the elections, but I wasn't involved as I am now. But I didn't even have any social media at the time either. And my wife had said to me that she saw a video that Trump was going to be speaking for the last time. So she asked me, she said, why don't we go down there? Obviously, it was January. I work in construction. I own a construction company. And we decided to go down. But right after Christmas, my wife had her last chemo. She was on chemo for breast cancer at the time. So she just had her last treatment was the day after Christmas. Fast forward a few days and she was sick and she couldn't go. So I decided to go down. She said, go down anyway. So now, once again, I had no social media. I didn't know anything about a Stop the Steal rally. I didn't know about
Oh,
any of that. I went down there just to go see the president speak for the last time.
okay.
And, now, fast forward a little bit, instead of my wife going down with me, I took a, my labor foreman that worked for me for the last 18 years at that time with me instead of her. This is the first time I've actually said that out in the open. But we went down there that day and stood underneath the Washington Memorial with a bunch of retired Marines, veterans. It was a great, great scene. And, I watched the president speak, listened to his speech, and then I walked in the same direction as everybody else.
Mhm.
And we got to the Capitol, and they say that there was barriers up and all this. Listen, if they were up, we didn't see any of that walking down. Those little bicycle racks now everybody sees, those weren't there when I was there. So we walked right through, right where the scaffolding was, and then everybody got there, had their flags on, and we see all the pictures. And then out of nowhere, they started shooting smoke grenades and all types of stuff, tear gas, and it kind of took everybody off guard because we had no idea what was going on. And then everybody started to like panic and scatter. Well, I ended up going underneath that scaffold to the left-hand side and walking up that set of stairs where, that famous picture is where the cops pushed that kid over the ledge there. So I entered the Capitol in the upper West Terrace door. And my situation is a lot different than many of the 1,500 plus people because I walked through an open door with six Capitol police officers at that door. Um, and I did a ton of interviews at the time because we'll go into it. But fast forward to that November, I ended up becoming an elected official. But that day, I entered there with six Capitol police officers. I walked into that door. I asked them where to go. This was the first time I was ever in DC. And I went into the rotunda. I walked through the velvet ropes like everybody else and out the other side and down the stairs. And I left. I went home. I think the FBI has me entering and leaving the building in 8 minutes. So, and I have videos, Selena, that I could send you where it kind of outlines where I went in and all that. So you could put some clips up later if you want. But, I was a total on the Capitol grounds, wherever they may start, who knows, for 20 minutes, according to the FBI indictment. So that was that day. And by the time, so none of your phones worked. You couldn't call in, couldn't get out,
Right.
and they kind of locked all that down. So we had no idea what was really going on. But my wife was watching, I think Newsmax or one of those networks, and she saw me walking down the stairs of the Capitol because I had a sweatshirt on that was very noticeable, and that's how she knew I was all right. Because by the time I got back on the what do they call it, the T or the subway there,
Mhm.
um, I think I made it to right over the Delaware Memorial Bridge, and we stopped in that truck stop. That's when I finally called her because we had no service. And then she told me it was like World War III down there, and I was like, "What do you mean World War III?"
If
And
I had
we
that,
had no idea what was
right.
going on because we had left, and and then obviously the mayor locked the city down like 6 o'clock, but I was already home by then. I think they have me on camera going into the Capitol at 2:38 or something like that. So it was fairly right after Trump spoke. Now, what a lot of people don't know too is that the Capitol has many sides to it. So
Hmm.
what was happening on one side um, was hardly anything, and then on the other side where I walked out, there weren't that many people at all. But later on that day, in the tunnel there was that was the West Terrace tunnel is what they called it, and that's where a lot of people. I think maybe that's where Roseanne Boyle was. But that's where, and that was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I
Hmm.
was already gone by then.
Right.
But so my case was very, very different than a lot of other people because I didn't walk through a broken window or a door that was broken off its hinges or any of that. I walked through an open door with six Capitol police officers there that day.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, very very interesting to say the least. But yeah, so that was the day, and then I could go into other details what happens like with the case and stuff after that if you want. But that was basically the day that I was there, and then I come home, and once again I had no social media, but my family and my friends knew that I was down there. But then it was, I want to say probably sometime in June, maybe, or July.
Hmm.
Fast forward, my wife sees a video put out by General Michael Flynn. And in this video, I don't know where it was posted, but in this video, it says that you need to get involved. You don't have to run for a federal office or this or that, but get involved in your school boards, get involved locally, get involved in your community. And that sparked my attention because, I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm very well known in the Valley. I've done a lot of things for the community. I built a 9/11 memorial on the Derby Green
Hmm.
with my own money. We actually have a piece of steel from one of the towers down there, which is an artifact. It's stamped, got a serial number, the whole thing, and it
Wow.
was designed by Gary Parker as well, which is the fire commissioner currently. But he works in the trades and he's an engineer. And also, so we designed it where the piece of steel actually sits on what is the Pentagon and the two towers, the Pentagon, the base. That is all officially correct according to a compass. So the way the towers stood downtown Manhattan are the way they sit according to the compass and direction on the Derby Green. So there was a lot of thought, a lot of planning. And I probably got close to $100,000 of my own money invested into that because Derby just didn't have the money to do it.
Hmm.
And so I always been involved. So after this video my wife shows me, I said, you know what? I'm gonna find out how to run for office, and I'm gonna run for the Board of Aldermen, which is the legislative body in the city of Derby. So I had no idea about a RTC. I had no idea how to get involved. But I called up the state, the SEEC,
Hmm.
and I talked to this guy, Mark, up there, and I was like, hey, I'm so and so, and I want to get on the ballot. What do I do? And he pointed me in the right direction. I downloaded the municipal handbook. It was like, I don't know, 85 pages. I read through it, filled out the paperwork, and, sent it all in. And I ended up seeing the mayor at the time. I told him I wanted to run for office, and he said, "Oh, Gino, that's great," but I didn't hear back from him. So, I was never spoon-fed, so I went and just did it on my own. I started my own campaign committee, fundraising, all this. Well, when I had to go to the meeting to get endorsed by the Republican Town Committee, they knew of me, but I didn't have any close relationships with a lot of the people. And they're like, who is this guy? We don't do it that way and all this other stuff. And I was like, well, not for nothing, but I'm actually helping you guys by doing it this way. Because if an individual can give you $1,000 to the committee, now they can give 1250 because I'm the under ticket, but I could collect 250. It's not taking away, it's actually adding. And then whatever money I've left over, I could donate it back. And they really didn't know. And that was the start of me and the RTC and Derby, but it all worked out.
So, did you have any fallout from the from your J6 experience? We did have someone else who was on the program a while back, and she was fortunate. She didn't actually go in she didn't go inside, but her experience was similar to yours in that she said that and her name's Dawn Matos. I don't know if you know her, but
Oh, yeah, I heard it, Dawn.
yeah, yep, she said
Oh, I didn't know she was there.
yeah, she was there. Yeah, and she said that, she said it was wide open and that
Yeah. Oh,
she,
yeah.
her phone was actually working and her husband, I think it was her husband called her and, or somebody called her and were like, are you okay? Because there's all sorts of like things going on. And she said that before they called her about that before she heard the gas canisters go off. Because I don't think she went to Trump's speech, as I
Oh, okay.
recall. I interviewed her last year.
Yeah.
So it was a completely, it was a different situation, but
I'll tell you one thing. When we were standing underneath the Washington Memorial there, and there was a bunch of military people, retired Marines. I think some were current, but they were in the reserves. But anyway, I think it was, and don't quote me on it, but I think it was like around 9:30, 10:30, somewhere in there. They got an alert on their phone. I think it was like NPR, CNN, something along those lines that said uh, protesters breach Capitol building,
Mhm.
something along those lines.
Right.
And we looked at each other. I go, we're getting blamed for stuff that we didn't even do. Like, how could they even say that? Why are they lying? Well, come fast forward they already knew what was going to happen and somebody released that statement or that clip or that alert too early you
Right.
know
Yeah.
and we're finding out that the FBI had people now. I mean, you're talking 5 years later plus, but that's the thing that we're finding out that it was basically a setup. But when it happened, nobody really knew, I guess, that I was there. Like I said, I didn't post anything, and
Mhm.
the FBI never called me, no nothing. So I decide to run for office. I get elected in November
Hmm.
um, on the west side of Derby, which is probably 2-1 Democrat. It was the first time a Republican won in over 20 plus years.
Wow.
So I win the election, and no FBI, no nothing. And the reason why, fast forward, hindsight's 2020, right? But the reason why the FBI never came, nobody ever talked to me, and it wasn't like a big thing at that time, is because I find out in April of 2021, a few months after that, there was only 250 people that walked through the same door I walked in. There
Okay.
was a gentleman from New Mexico, I have all the documentation, that got arrested basically for parading, trying to obstruct an official thing in Congress, and there was like 4 charges. And this was so early on, he decided that he was going to go to trial, and he wanted a bench trial by a judge.
Hmm.
Well, he gets acquitted on all charges by a judge. And therefore, I was told by an attorney that because he was acquitted by a judge, the 249 other people that walked through that door with him got acquitted with him. If he had gone to a trial and a jury of his peers, well, they could acquit me and they could find you guilty with the same evidence. But because it was a judge, and the door was open. The Capitol Police officers there. They
Wow.
showed us where to go, which is all on video, and then they closed it. Basically, you know how they say you're guilty by association? Well, we got acquitted with him.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, yeah. So now, after that happens, I don't know anything about this because they sealed the records and they sealed all the evidence and they sealed the video that I later get.
Mhm.
But they sealed everything and they didn't release any of that. So we had no idea. But they knew, the DOJ knew. And then, you talk about weaponization. This
Mhm.
is the definition of that. You're not supposed to seal stuff that is on the public record after somebody's either found guilty or acquitted. You know what I mean? Especially when you're acquitted. But after I win office in November, there was no drawback. Nobody said nothing to me because maybe not a lot of people knew.
Mhm.
Once again, I didn't broadcast that I was down there, but my friends, family, and people knew that I was there. So nobody comes and talks to me.
Mhm.
No FBI, no nothing until it was Halloween of 2022,
Mhm.
and they NBC News ends up getting coming to a Board of Aldermen meeting, and the meeting gets over like 10 o'clock. They walk through the door with their cameras, and my buddy Len Bestoff, which I talk to this day, comes in and throws a file folder on the table and goes, "Is this you?" And I look at it and I say, "Yeah, that's me." And like he was stunned. He didn't know what to say after that. He goes, "Were you at January 6th?" And blah 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 blah. And you'll see all the clips. Just Google my name, it all comes up. But I was like, "Yeah, I was there. Those are the pictures." And so they end up doing a story, and then once that's when all hell broke loose. They vandalized my house. I had to move my wife out.
Oh, man.
And what we're seeing on TV today with all these protesters, these are paid agitators that come from all over the country. The people and the things that happened to me weren't by my friends and family and the people in the community or in the Valley area in general. These were paid people that were told where to go, what to do, so forth and so on. I found out what swatting was. Um,
Hard
it, it,
way.
it yeah, the hard way. And thank God I'm very well known in not just the valley but my community and throughout the area, because if I lived in Waterbury where nobody knew me,
Mhm.
this is what they want. They want you to walk out on your porch and they want you to say what's going on. And then the cops, they don't know what's going on. They think somebody's trapped in your basement, and we
Ah,
know the stories about it. And then they shoot you, and then everybody wants to blame the cops later, but they have no idea. Meanwhile, it's somebody calling and putting this on. just like the people, online that aren't even at the other end of the keyboard. I found that out too, what bots and trolls and all this other stuff was along the way. But, um, they came and did this story, and then nothing happened again. The cops didn't come, the FBI didn't come, and even the Democrat Party in the city of Derby didn't ask for my resignation or anything. I don't think that they had I don't think they wanted to do that anyway. But, um, and that's pretty much where we were at. And I continued to do good things. I mean, in town and whatnot. But I decided to run for mayor in end of February, early March of 2023. And the current mayor at the time wasn't going to run again. He was already there for 6 years. And, you know, uh, so I decided to run. Fast forward a little bit after that, and that's when they started coming after me. So once NBC News came, it was all over the country, all over.
Wow.
I have a friend of mine, his sister works for MSNBC, and they sent me a picture, and it shows Derby aldermen, on all their, national screens and stuff. And it was just absolutely blown out of proportion. But elected official, January 6th, the whole 9 yards.
Uh,
But it's when I announced that I was going to run for mayor is, I think, pretty much what happened. But once NBC News came, I decided to do a couple of things behind the scenes that end up being beneficial for me. So I ended up getting a federal attorney that's pretty well known, has a lot of years with federal cases, and I ended up retaining him even before the FBI shows up, and that helped me because the more and more you talk to January 6th guys, they just come to your house and they'll arrest everybody, break in all the doors, send the SWAT team in, so forth and so on. We've heard all the tragic stories, and thank God that I was smart enough to think a little bit ahead that didn't happen to me. But they don't um, they don't end up arresting me until 2 weeks before the primary. That I end up getting the GOP nomination to run for mayor.
okay. Okay.
And I skipped a little bit, but uh, I end up I forget when it was. So I think it might have been in July. I end up getting the nomination, and at that time, the current mayor, the Republican mayor that was current at the time, he never said he was going to run for reelection. Never came out. Never came to town committee meetings, which I was the chairman of at that time, and still am. But never said he was going to run. But the week prior or the week after I get the nomination to be the Republican nominee for mayor in the city of Derby, the mayor decides he's going to run as well, but not seek the endorsement. Okay, well, that was a little fishy. So
Okay.
the time clicks over, he decides he's going to run. He gets enough of signatures to petition on. Now, if you're this current sitting mayor and you didn't decide to run and you told me to run because I didn't have any ambition to run for mayor, but he wasn't going to run and he put me now for the 2 years that were there, he put me in charge of all these committees, and everybody could see the writing on the wall that he was putting me in the right spots to get, enough of knowledge to run for mayor.
Right.
You don't do that if you're not going to run for mayor in the next election
Mhm.
because the terms are only 2 years. So I could have got voted out and all that would have been for nothing. So it made no sense when he decided to run. But it does because now we have to go into a primary, which is fine. But now the time is clicking. The primary is in September. And wouldn't you believe it? 2 weeks before the primary, they arrest me. The FBI indicts me. I have to turn myself in, national news, elected official, indicted, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is in 2023. This obviously happens in 21. Nobody came to talk to me. Nobody called me, emailed me, nothing to say, hey, what's your side? And now almost a whole year goes by since NBC News does it, and it's plastered all over the country, and it took the FBI a year to come and indict me. That's because the FBI and the DOJ knew that they couldn't do what they did to me because the guy already got acquitted, and they knew that. They knew that. But what happens is I find out from the FBI after I turn myself in. Um, I go down there and somebody calls. I'm in New Haven at the federal courthouse, and somebody calls in a bomb threat, like a bomb scare. So I ended up sitting in that courthouse for like 6.5 hours. I was supposed to get arraigned at 1 o'clock.
Mhm.
Well, I'm sitting there. We're playing cards with the FBI agents and stuff. And, I said to them, I go, I don't even know what I'm doing here. And they go, we don't even know what you're doing here either. Gino, we put you in the done folder. You told us where you went, where you were, where you entered. We verified, we checked it, and we put you in the done folder. I go, geez, I guess that done folder is not too deep if I'm sitting here. He goes, listen, this came from the higher ups.
Wow.
Somebody pulled the strings at the DOJ to have you sitting where you're sitting right now.
Wow.
So I'm furious at that point because now I'm in the middle of an election. Now I'm in a primary. You indict me 2 weeks before the primary, and then I go get arraigned, and the judge says, all right, next court date is going to be November 4th, whatever the day after the election is. And I turned and I talked to my lawyer and I said, Marty, I go, the day after the election, I go, is my fate going to be determined if I win or lose the election?
Wow.
Like, so if that was the case, why wouldn't you wait till after the primary? If you're not going to arrest me and then I'm not going to go to court, we're not going to do anything until the day after the November election. It seems to me like somebody had to get me arrested before the primary to help them out in the election, right? Well, that's exactly what happened. So they arrest me. I don't have to go back to court now. And then that's when the powers to be come to me and they say, listen, you're all over the TV. You should do what's best for Derby, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I am doing what's best for Derby. I'm the candidate and I'm the GOP nominee. And I said, not for nothing, but when the current mayor told me to run, I did what he told me to do. I
Right.
go, if he was going to run, why didn't he say he was going to run? Well, I'm in a primary with that mayor, which
That
I
makes
go on now
no
to beat.
sense.
Who
That makes
who were the powers to be in that situation?
Political kind of insiders, the ones that you know, at that time, the ones that always have their kind of finger on the pulse, if you will. You know what I mean? They're in every municipality in the state, and they're not well-known names either, but you know,
so you think this came from somewhere in Connecticut?
what's that?
This powers that be thing, something from Connecticut.
The powers to be that told me to get out of the race?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, those were people from the local area that wanted me to back out of the race so that there be no primary
Mm-hmm.
and that, the sitting mayor would get reelected, even though he didn't want to get elected at the time. But the reason why is because the mayor at the time told me to run, which I did. Well, when he went, and this is what I believe to have happened, he went back and told his administration, his team, whatever you want to call them, said, "Hey, I'm not running again." And they said, "Oh no, you have to run because we have our hand in the cookie jar." And you have to run. We're not prepared for you not to run. And why didn't you tell us this? And then they were in some deep shit because if you fast forward, Derby was like $3 million in the hole after that,
Oh,
Mm.
you know?
okay.
So by them coming to me and telling me to get out of the race because I got indicted or arrested for this January 6th, 4 years after the fact, well, then there would be no primary. He would become the candidate and he probably would have won re-election, and then they wouldn't have to worry about what went missing, and do what they have to do on their end, to be determined, I guess it would have been. But that was the plan, and that's why they needed me arrested before the primary,
Hmm.
because obviously the FBI wasn't dragging feet, because I got the information from the mouth of the FBI themselves. Because when I hired the attorney, my attorney picked up the phone and called the DOJ. I sat down with the FBI prior to this. And that's why when they arrested me, the FBI guy says to me, Gino, we put you in the done folder, because I didn't lie to the FBI. And a lot of people from January 6th lied to the FBI, and that's how they got you, by lying, because they already had the information.
Right.
See, they did a geofence. They dumped everybody's phone.
Hmm.
They filed a warrant for my arrest twice, and the judge denied it. And
Yeah.
that's why the higher ups, or the people to be, as the FBI agent described, pulled the strings at the DOJ, because my cell phone was registered into Digiovanni and Sons Construction, not to my name.
Okay.
So when they pulled the records, they went to the judge, say, oh yeah, we need this. First of all, they already had all the information, but it wasn't legal and they couldn't use it because they didn't have a warrant. They do everything backwards. This is not, TV where they solve a crime in 45 minutes. They had the information now, because we found out that they geofenced the whole thing and did it illegally, but then they worked backwards. So the judge saw the IP address didn't match me. So you know what they needed to do? They needed to call me on the telephone, get me to talk on the telephone, and then while somebody was sitting there, they could put me, my person, and my business cell phone and IP address together so that they could get the warrant, because they already got denied twice. And who does that? The current sitting mayor of Derby at the time calls me on the telephone and says, hey, Gino, it's Zeke, call me back. And 45 minutes later, I was pouring concrete. I call him back, and the FBI was in his office. And
Wow.
I find that out later on down the road by the criminal complaint, because the day I got indicted at the federal courthouse, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting at home and I'm going through some things. And thank God I emailed it to myself, but it was a video interview of the current mayor at the time sitting in his truck saying about the indictment. Well, that was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or 1:30. Thank God I emailed it to myself, because then it just vanished off the internet. But because they called in the bomb threat, I wasn't able to get arraigned by 1 o'clock. I didn't get arraigned until like 5 o'clock, 5:30, because it just hit the news at 6 o'clock for all the live on air shots. So how did this person do that interview at the 12 o'clock news hour talking about it, when my records and my case was sealed at the time?
Wow.
Because they had the inside track, because they already called me with the FBI sitting in their office, is why, because they already knew. So maybe it's a possibility that somebody that he's close to pulled the strings at the DOJ to have me arrested 2 weeks before the primary. That could be a good possibility, right? And what makes me sick is that I would have thought it was the Democrats. It wasn't. It was my own team at the time. Because the day NBC News walked into that room, the Democrats, they all walked out. Nobody had an idea what was really going on, because I had just done a memorial on at Whittick Park for a family that her son died a few years back, and we just did a big memorial for him for his remembrance. He was a great soccer player at Emmett O'Brien, and she tried for years to get a memorial for her son, and nobody helped her get it done. And I ended up getting it done as an elected official on the Board of Aldermen in the city of Derby. So people thought it was for that. If you were a Democrat doing this, you only got one shot. There's no guarantee that they're going to play this on TV. So your insurance card would be that you video my buddy Len Bestoff and NBC News and say what's going on, that you would just hold it, because if they didn't air it, now at least you have it, right? You don't want to let that moment go to waste. But that wasn't the case. They all walked out. And then when I turned around, so did my Republican counterparts.
Hmm.
So wouldn't you want to know what was going on?
Yeah.
So
I
right
guess,
off the rip there, I was like, man, something doesn't add up there.
yeah, I guess that's kind of concerning is like, why would your own party throw you under the bus? And I know you mentioned that it's because they had their hands in the cookie jar, but wouldn't they then feel like they could have had power over you, with this whole situation where they could have used that to blackmail you even if you got elected? So it's just such a weird thing to me that they would go that route against one of their own. Did Was there somebody that you like pissed off in particular that you can kind
No,
of track this back to? No?
no, no. They wanted me out of the race. And once again, I'm loved by the community.
Yeah.
Like, people loved me, and they throw shit in my face now about this and that, and I say, listen, go look at any of my background
Hmm.
before this happens in 21, 22. Before they come and they freeze my assets, before I go into debt, before any of this happened, I didn't have a problem with anybody. I never been arrested it before in my life. No, it cost me over $1 million, cost me $100,000 for the lawyer. And then they froze all my assets, where they repoed all my construction equipment and everything, when I got money sitting there to pay it. And then, it's in the middle of the season. I have guys working for me. I ended up cashing out my IRA, my 401k, my life insurance policy, all to pay my workers. You know, People can't put food on their table with the lousy 400 or 500 bucks for unemployment in the middle of a busy year. I mean, busy
Right.
time of year. So it put me in a bad spot. They just crippled me because I didn't get out of the race. And it is what it is, but they did me a favor because they gave me a bigger voice than I could have ever had on my own. And now that I have nothing, I don't have two nickels to rub together. And now what are you going to do? You can't stick anything on me. Everybody knows it. And if you want to throw something in my face, go ahead. But, I'm starting from the ground up, and I won't be silenced anymore. And that's what I did from that day. I just kept going. People wanted me to resign from this, do that, do this, do that. And I said no. And, you know, I ended up winning that primary too.
So what's your current relationship with the Connecticut GOP and Ben
I got
Proto?
I got elected last year to the state GOP for the 17th district. I'm a state central member.
Okay. But how I'm saying like how's your relationship with the actual GOP run by Ben Proto? Like, have you come across meeting with him? Because I
Yeah,
saw.
I met with Ben. Ben really didn't, my opinion, Ben didn't really like me in the beginning at all. I think he didn't know me, first of all, and I didn't know him, but I
Mhm.
think he just thought, everything that he's heard about me, what have you. But, we had this convention a few weeks ago, and I was actually a sergeant of arms at the convention, and did a lot of planning, a lot of background. I was on resolutions committee. I was heavily involved in the convention itself. And, I don't have an issue with Ben Proto as I sit currently. I know he's getting a lot of slack, a lot of heat. And I mean, his record and results speak for themselves. I mean, we haven't won an election, congressional election or federal election in 20 something years.
Right.
They have a super majority. So I mean, his track record is not great. Um, you know,
Okay. Yeah, because I when I was doing some research, his name popped up as a quote from October of last year, which was basically talking about you.
oh
And
really? What did it say?
he says, I don't think it was a big deal 2 years ago when he ran for mayor. I think it's even less of a tiny deal for town clerk. And that was around the
Oh, that's because I ran for a town clerk in this last election. Yeah, and I was
yeah.
already a member of the GOP at the time.
And he said that they were more worried about the mayoral race than they were about you
And that
in
was
your
the
race.
mayoral, yeah, that mayoral race was the one in Stratford, I think, where the person actually got arrested and prosecuted in DC for making a disturbance in the chambers, actually got arrested um, a few years back. I think that
Okay.
was something along those lines. I remember was that a Connecticut Public Radio
Yeah, it was
article?
CT Public. Yeah.
Yeah, with my buddy Eddie Martinez.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. So they were talking about the mayoral race. I think it was in Stratford, I think, because that person actually got arrested in D.C., a Democrat, and nobody said nothing about it.
Gotcha. Well, this says they were voters in Derby are more preoccupied about the mayoral race between Joe DiMartino and Scott Derby.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah, that's
okay,
who ran for mayor this last year.
gotcha. And what happened with the mayor from a couple years ago when you ran for mayor? What's his
Oh,
situation now?
he's he hasn't been around or involved you know, in anything since he lost the election. So that election in 2023 November ended up having four people in the race, including myself.
Hmm.
And you know, I my vote total and his vote total outnumbered the Democrat. So the Democrat walked in that election, walked into office for free because of because of what have you, in my opinion. And then the citizens, residents of Derby got stuck with 11.9% tax increase right off the rip. And now we're like the third highest mill rate after revaluation in the state. So we're getting it shoved where the sun don't shine, all because of this, in my opinion, because I believe that I could have done a better job than where we're at. And Sonia is going through the same thing right now, and it's the same playbook right down to when the new mayor got elected.
Mhm.
They had no salt for the city streets, so they had to go to Hamden in the state.
We
And
wondered what happened with that.
it was the same exact thing that happened in Derby, and I
Now I
had posted
know.
it.
Now
I
I
had
know.
I had posted it on social media somewhere, and I said, I guarantee you that you're going to have 11.9% tax increase. And
Well,
look at,
that's fine.
they're voting on the referendum, but it came out that they needed to do a 26%, but we'll end up with six instead of. But you know,
Oh,
Dave
yeah, well,
Cassetti, the mayor, was very smart in like 2014 or
mhm.
18, whenever it was, that he put in there that it would have to go to the people in a referendum for anything over net 3%, which was smart on his part.
Hmm.
Yep.
But I ended up losing that November election, and I go on to, I'm still the chairman at the time. Nobody asked me to resign from anywhere, but then this was the icing on the cake, where this now Um, so in that primary, my father votes in the election absentee ballot. He was sick.
Hmm.
My father dies like 3 days before the election in November. My father voted obviously for me, absentee ballot. Got to put in the box, the whole 9 yards. The night before the election, I go to my campaign headquarters and I ask my campaign manager, and I'm like, I'm going over all the absentee ballots. I go, where's my father's name and all that? What's going? Yeah, I didn't want to tell you. What didn't you want to tell me? They threw your father's ballot out because he died. I said, wait a minute, what? Yeah. I said, how could they even do that? Because he passed away. They set up these boxes to be the same exact thing as if I walked into City Hall and put my ballot in the machine on election day, okay? So when somebody puts their ballot in the ballot box outside, and if they should pass away, Now we got 2 weeks of early voting, okay? But
That
if they should pass away before 8 p.m. on election day, you're telling me that their ballot doesn't count or their vote doesn't count either? Who made that up? Well, come to
considering
find
you
out
have
this.
over 10,000 dead people on on the voter rolls.
Well, my thing is, if I go election day and I put it in the machine and I walk off the curb at City Hall, get hit by a bus, are you going to pull my ballot out? Because
Right.
Really
if
interesting.
you're not, then your bullshit ballot, absentee ballot box outside is not the same thing. So
Mm.
what are we doing then? And then my next point to them was, okay, so who's reading the obituaries from it was only a couple of days before, but who's reading the obituaries from the start of absentee ballots going out to election day to make sure that everybody in the obituaries didn't get an absentee ballot and it's not returned, or someone in the town clerk's office, okay, is going to pull that ballot out of that box and throw it away because it don't count. Who gave them the authority to do it is what I want to know. And that
Right.
person that pulled that out should have been arrested for tampering with an election. Because if they could do that to me and make it known to piss me off because they wanted me to be a jerk and lose control and go and drive my truck through City Hall, which I wasn't going to do, but that's what they wanted so that they could point the finger to me and say, oh, look, see, Gino, we told you he's a domestic terrorist and call me every name in the book. But it wasn't going to happen. But that's what they wanted.
Mm.
So you throw my ballot, my father's ballot, in the garbage after he's dead? Oh, no, that's not going to piss anybody off. Like they just kept doing these things because what they wanted to do, what they thought they were going to do with what happened with me didn't work. I wasn't going to bow the knee. I wasn't going to get my arm twisted and back out. And you know what? If it took you guys to put me in prison, to take every nickel I got to stand true on my word and what I believe in, then that's what I'm going to do. And obviously, they took all of that and they made they made me pay tooth and nail for that. But it is what it is.
What happened after the election? Because you had a court date.
Yeah, after the election, I went and they continued it. And the only time I ever walked into a physical courtroom was the one day I got indicted in federal court in New Haven. I never walked into a courtroom. I never saw a judge. I never did any of that. It was all on Zoom, where the judge looked like he was in his chambers. The prosecutor or the state's attorney or the federal attorney, I guess, U.S. attorney would be in their office, a clerk, and then an empty courtroom, and then me and my lawyer in his office. I never saw anything like that, my lawyer says, in the 53 years he was practicing federal law. How you can't go and face your accusers, number one, but number two, how do we even know if this is legit? Like how,
Hmm.
like the judge could be on vacation somewhere and just put up a Zoom screen. You know what I mean? It was the most bizarre thing he's ever seen in 53 years. And my judge was James Boasberg, and I know everyone's heard of his name so
Yeah.
far.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Liz. Okay.
So back to the vote thing real quick. Was your father in the armed forces?
No.
Okay,
No.
because I'm looking at Ballotpedia right now and it says Connecticut allows those types of ballots to be counted if the voter was in the armed services. So that must be like they must throw everyone out, but who knows if they're actually doing that. But
Yeah, they're
um,
not.
I've never
They're
even
not.
heard of, I'm like, why would somebody in the armed forces get more power after they die than a normal
Well,
citizen?
and the only reason why I would say that I understand that is because it takes weeks for them to fly the ballots back to every state that they're in. And, you could pass away tomorrow and your
Mhm.
ballot still be in transit. But
Gotcha.
same thing with somebody that's deceased. Obviously, a deceased person that dies before election day can't come and put the ballot in the machine, right?
Right.
But well, supposedly. But If somebody fills out an absentee ballot and either puts it in the mail or delivers it in person into the box that is supposed to be the same thing as the machine and gets hit by a truck walking off of the curb or gets killed driving home from the post office, who is checking to see if somebody got killed that already put their absentee ballot in? Because if you go to Hartford, New Haven, Hamden, who's checking the obituaries? You
Well,
guys got 4,500 absentee ballots that come back. You checking the obituaries to see who died? No. Once you physically put that in either the mail or that box, all bets are off. Because if they're checking the absentee ballots for people that die, then they should be checking them to see if the people that died filled them out. They shouldn't have maybe mailed it to some people that were already deceased.
Mhm.
So if they could do that and check to see if my father's dead or alive, then they could check to see who's deceased that doesn't get a ballot, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just so weird
It only happens to,
to
to a D,
Republicans.
yeah, to a Digiovanni in Derby. But I mean, and I ended up losing that election, but I go to court and I go to Zoom actually and play court, but nothing happens until August of 2024.
hmm
Okay.
And I end up they dropped all the charges except for one. And I was only charged with misdemeanors. One was parading, remaining in a restricted building, uh, and two other things. I forget what they were. But they dropped everything except for they were all misdemeanors, mind you, as well. Um, remaining in a restricted building. So at this time, I was tapped out. I didn't have another dollar. I couldn't fight it. And I probably had a good chance of fighting it. I'm glad I didn't because I found out what happened to everybody. But, um, because there was no signs up, how did I know it was restricted? And my case, once again, is different because only 250 of us walked through that door with the 6 Capitol police officers there
Yeah.
on video. So I ended up pleading guilty. I just tapped out. I had no more funds, no more nothing. The government dumped 7 terabytes of information for discovery on my attorney's desk. And people are like, you got robbed, this and that. I said, listen, there was 17 people on my legal team. Who's paying these people? They need to eat. They got families. And when the government dumped 7 I didn't even know what a terabyte was, never mind 7 of them. It's a ton of information,
Yeah.
obviously. So, somebody's got to pay for these people to do what they're doing to help me. But I ended up pleading guilty to that. And in my plea arrangement and my agreement was that I would do 50 hours of community service, pay a $500 fine, and a year of probation. Um, and that's what I agreed to.
hmm
Well, I ended up going, and the judge who was going that day wasn't going great. And I'm looking at my attorney, I'm saying, what is going on? Because I had a court date and it got canceled. And no, but there was nothing. The day I was getting sentenced, I had a court date, it got postponed. Uh, I think it was that morning my lawyer called me. Nobody knew. Okay. Now there was nothing in the newspapers, no nothing. So now fast forward another 30 days or whatever, I'm going to get sentenced. Before the court date now, when I'm getting sentenced, all the news articles are coming out that I'm getting sentenced and everything that the prosecutor, the U.S. attorney, the prosecutor, every word that they said was in these news articles. So when I'm sitting there and the judge is sentencing me and she gets up and she speaks, they're saying verbatim what I just read in the newspaper. And I'm saying to myself, this is not adding up. How did they get all this information? And why are they saying the same thing when a month ago they didn't even write one article because they didn't give two shits about me then? But now all
Right.
of a sudden, because they must have known, they must have leaked and gave all the information to to the press or the media. And then when the judge gets on his soapbox and the U.S. attorney says that I haven't been remorseful, I haven't been this, I haven't been that, I never even got a chance to speak into court. Where would you like me to be remorseful? I didn't never made a statement. I only went to court when I got arraigned that, or indicted that one time, and now I haven't even been on a TV screen long enough. Nobody even asked me any questions. And now that I pled guilty, I then have a chance to speak. But she's talking about all this when I've only been there like 3 or 4 times. They kept getting canceled. I'm like, when was I supposed to? And then the judge says the same thing, and he goes on his soapbox over and over and over. And I'm like, man, I'm kicking my attorney because we're on Zoom. And I'm just like, man, Marty, this is not going good here. This doesn't sound good. And yeah, I ended up getting sentenced to federal prison for a misdemeanor. And James Boasberg sent me to FCI Danbury, and I go to Danbury. So then after that,
How,
uh,
what was the sentence?
2 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks. Yep, 2 weeks. That was just enough for me to get sentenced, so everybody can call me a convicted felon now. Gino's a felon because let me tell you, nobody goes to federal prison if they're not a felon, except for this guy.
Mhm.
So now everybody just assumes. And even the gentleman that I ran against for town clerk, he's at everybody's door, knocking on his door, saying, vote for me, because the other guy shouldn't even be anywhere near Vital Records because he's a felon. You saw him on TV, didn't you? Of course I saw him on TV. He's a felon? Sure he is. Okay, he's a felon. Nobody knows that I'm not a felon. I was never even arrested for a felony ever in my entire life. I have my pistol permit. I have all gun licenses, and I'm the only guy that probably walked out of federal prison with a federal prison ID and a pistol permit. Only happens to people like me, I guess. I don't know, but it's
Well,
just absolutely insane.
that means that you can still vote legally too.
Yeah, yeah,
Did you get pardoned?
I did. Yeah, I
Okay.
got pardoned. Yeah, I got
So
pardoned.
what does that do for you? Does that take away the misdemeanor that puts you in jail, or is that always going to follow you?
No, I'm still on the do not fly list. I'm still on all these like I get flagged.
Hmm.
Um and part of the weaponization fund had some language in there that was floated around that we would be taken off of being a domestic terrorist watch list basically, you know.
That's
Um
insane.
I haven't done it personally, but I've had people call me when I've, filled out certain things, and I have some friends that are high up in law enforcement, and like if I get pulled over, the whole screen is like a red alert, big red,
Mhm.
Wow.
because I'm the big, you know,
Okay.
domestic terrorist.
Hmm.
It's insanity. But there's a lot of people that can't even fly. I haven't flown, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
And I still have my passport. I had to surrender it. I ended up getting my passport back.
Mhm.
Um, but I am on I had I think it was last week we had a conference call with my legal team and a few other people as well that are January Sixers, and they're still coming up flagged. Um, Anytime they get on a plane, they get strip searched, taken to the back room type of thing. And then
Mhm.
a lot of times you'll get some, now that they got, what is it, Homeland Security, I guess, inside, some of these bigger airports now, they know what's going on. So they'll ask you questions and, they'll do their job, but they won't,
Right. Put you
make you stay there to miss your connecting flight or your layover or what have you,
Right.
like it used to happen. Um, you know, but so yeah, I ended up getting pardoned, and which I still had a year of supervised probation.
Probation. Yep.
Yeah, why but then I got pardoned. So when I was in Danbury, FCI Danbury, I was supposed to self-surrender, and nobody ever called me. I never got a letter, no nothing. So the day I was supposed to go, I ended up calling my attorney and I said, Marty, I go, where do I go to turn myself in? Nobody came and got me. I've been sitting here all day. He goes, what are you talking about? You're supposed to be there. I go, well, where do I go? Do I go to the Derby PD and say, hey, take me to prison? Like I don't know. What do
Oh,
you
Yeah.
mean? What do you
oh.
mean you never got nothing? So they screwed that all up. But thank God they did. See, God has been with me on this journey from the minute this happened to currently right today because I ended up getting sick. I got Lyme disease in my spinal fluid, which caused my body to react like I was having a stroke. I ended up spending 2 weeks in Yale. They had to put a port in my arm and all for all this medicine. And I had my face was paralyzed. Thank God that it happened to me. I didn't go because I believed that I would have died in prison because they wouldn't have helped you. And they didn't help me when I got there. And I still went there and did everything that the probation people and the POB told me to do with the medication. They still didn't even give me that when I got there. But by me going and getting sick, it delayed me from going because I end up going to Danbury and Steve Bannon's there. I would have been gone by the time Steve Bannon even got there. So I meet Steve Bannon and I start talking with him and he couldn't believe my story and all this stuff. But I went to church with him a few times on Sunday and anyway, I end up he ends up hooking me up with the people from War Room Films. Our FBI director, Kash Patel, wrote a book, Government Gangsters. Steve turned it into a movie before he went to prison. So, as Peter Navarro was getting out of prison and he's at the convention, that's when I was going. So, I get out and Steve's like, I'm going to have information for you at your house when you get out. Now, did I believe him? I had no reason to doubt him. But I'm Gino from the smallest city in the state of Connecticut, Derby, and this is Steve Bannon. I wasn't gonna hold my breath, but I shit you not. I got home. The minute I walked through the door, my wife handed me a brown envelope and said, "Gino, this is for you." And I opened it, and it was all the contact information. I ended up calling War Room Films, and I ended up going with them for. There's a big January 6th thing in that movie, Government Gangsters, and went to all these movie premieres, and I was the guest speaker where the audience could ask you questions back and forth. And I ended up going to speak with General Flynn and Rudy and Peter Navarro. And so from August when I got out all the way to the November election, I I not that I toured, but I went pretty much east of the Mississippi and spoke at a lot of things. And that's when they realized that people had no idea what actually happened on January 6th. The common everyday person that's working and taking care of their kids, going to softball, baseball, football, basketball, whatever, they're not paying attention to the CNNs and the Fox Newses and all the mainstream. They barely have enough of time to sit down and, have a minute to themselves. So they had no idea. But they're people like us. They're patriots. And, but they had no idea. And a lot of it was censored anyway. But so that's kind of what started the whole next section, because after the election and Trump wins, I ended up going and speaking at a lot of places, and I was actually the keynote speaker in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I think it was a year and a half ago, last year's dinner. I was a keynote speaker there. Talked about January 6th and many other events. I go out to Pennsylvania and speak, and been interviewed a ton of times. And people are really starting to get the word out, about what really went on. And now that it's in the news again, um, I think it's bringing it up. Plus, I think it was today or yesterday they got Tina Peters got out of prison.
I was
She was
shocked.
another one.
Yeah.
Um, but what people don't understand is that this weaponization fund that they're talking about now, and they might be doing it, they might not be doing it. Who knows what's going to go on? But that's not just for January 6th people. That's for the moms and the dads that the DOJ arrested at their board of aldermen, at their board of ed meetings. They're the ones that the doctor said, listen, the jab is experimental. We don't know what it is. Take it at your own risk. Or all these situations. I was in prison with this guy that got arrested for being praying outside an abortion clinic, and I think it was New York. And he got arrested, and he was doing 48 months in there. And
Jeez.
a lot of these people got heavy, heavy sentences. And what gets me upset is the people that go around and they say, well, the violent January 6er that beat up a cop that day, he shouldn't get anything. Well, you know what? You're right. And I agree with you. But let me tell you, the person that you think beat up a cop there, did he even get arrested? Was he prosecuted? Did he go to prison? Because I'm going to tell you, I was in prison with a father and a son. The father was with me in Danbury and the son was in Pennsylvania. The father got 48 months and the son got 46. They got arrested for a felony assault on an officer. They're on video the whole time, never next to an officer, never made it into the building, had nothing to do with the police officer, but that's what they got arrested, and that's what they ended up pleading guilty to because they just had no more money to fight. Plus, what happens is you saw the people that did have the money to fight, it was like a 99% success rate in being guilty with the jury.
Yeah.
So it was just, pissing your money away. So I agree with those people. But I have no idea, and neither does anybody else, that the people that were doing the damage, the ones that were assaulting the cops and all this, were they even arrested? Were they ever prosecuted? Or are they the same thing as the 240 something federal police officers that were in the Capitol, that were around the Capitol and at the Capitol that day? Did they punch each other in the face to start mayhem? Because I know that there's video out there where they arrest the guy, they take him behind, and they uncuff him, and they say, go ahead, go do what you got to do. And I personally have footage of people that were in the Capitol going around saying, get out of here now, we're all done. They're pulling the plug on it. It turned into a disaster. They all had backpacks on with white big zip ties on their shoulder, and they had a long jacket on, and they had pipes and baseball bats and all type. Listen, when I got there and I walked off the T or the train or whatever, we got searched down, we got wanded down. They looked through our backpacks. So let me tell you something. Anybody that was at Trump's speech, I highly doubt that they were carrying baseball bats and tire irons and all this other bullshit, okay? Because there was no way possible. But now you go and look and you see all the video of the bags of the bullshit coming out at the Capitol from under the steps, underneath all those things. And there's a ton of footage that if you don't know where to find it, how to look for it on certain sites or whatever, you're never going to see it. Because let me tell you, Fox News and CNN and the mainstream media is never, ever going to show any of that because they would be wrong for the January 6th hoax.
Mhm. Yeah, that would make them liable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, we all know that there was bad actors there. We've seen them. But
Mhm.
my thing is, I'm not denying that because then the first thing they do is they point to you and say, oh, you're a denier, just like you're an election denier. I said, I'm not an election denier, number one. Obviously, when I got interviewed from NBC, Biden's the president, but there is a lot of discrepancies here. Are there enough to overturn the election? I don't know. But I had no idea what Stop the Steal was at that time. I didn't because wasn't even on social media. So let me tell you something. The bad actors that were breaking the windows, the bad actors that were in the crowd, that just like that guy Ray Epps that everybody sees on these videos that actually made it to see the light of day, were those people prosecuted? Did they go to jail? And did they spend any time pleading guilty? Because if they didn't, then you know what? There probably isn't that many people that are the cop killers and the people that cause bodily harm to our law enforcement officers. Because I agree that anybody that did that wasn't somebody that was just there that day. They were looking for trouble. Nobody does that,
Mhm.
leaving your house on a, Tuesday afternoon. But from my, with the knowledge that I have and from what I've seen, I highly doubt any of them were actually prosecuted and convicted of anything, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we'd have to know who they were, and we generally don't. All we know
Yeah.
is
Right.
where.
And the reason why, I say that is because people that I know personally were charged with that.
Mhm.
But there's video of them, and they got 48 months. They didn't even make it to the Capitol, but they got arrested for it, which is insanity to begin with. But they weren't around any cops, and that's why when Trump gave that blanket pardon and all this started this whole other, saga. I believe that he gave the blanket pardon only when he found out that Biden in the auto pen gave all those pardons while Trump was making a speech. Because from the knowledge that I had and what I was told, was that the people that had the lesser charges were going to go first. I was told that I would get pardoned on day one.
Mhm.
And I was waiting by the phone and watching on TV. But when it didn't happen until later in the Oval Office, I didn't think it was going to happen. But then he pardoned everybody, and I believe it was because of what happened with Joe Biden and pardoning everybody on the way out the door. And we find out he didn't even do it. But I believe that's what changed Trump's mind. That, or maybe the president knew that the people that ended up, going to prison and getting charged weren't the ones that did what they were charged with either. I don't know. But something changed, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Well, that's a heck of a story. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's the short version, you know. But I I just there's a story that people have never heard and that don't hear about. And it's the ones I'm I'm very grateful that I have a great support system. My wife, my community, the people that are close to me, they never left me. I don't care about the people online. I got a thick skin, and I tell everybody I'm a Digiovanni. I was built for this. And I don't care what anybody says about me. But at the end of the day, there are people that don't have a good support system that aren't, been through anything like that. And that's why a lot of J6ers have committed suicide. A
Yeah,
lot of J6ers have been divorced, their kids taken away, haven't seen their families, lost everything. People took their businesses when they were in prison.
yeah,
I mean, the horror stories go on and on and on. And you know what? Those are the stories that nobody talks about. And then you want to say, oh, we don't deserve uh, to have the public hear our case and the weaponization fund. Nobody's going to get any of that money. Then we're going to tax it and all this other nonsense. Well, let me tell you something. President Trump was supposed to sued for $10 billion. The 1.776 or whatever the 1776 number was, I believe that was just thrown out there to see how many people were going to fight him. And I believe that they sealed their own fate because we saw who they were. Because anybody with common sense has to know what I know, especially if you're an elected official and you
Mhm.
have the authority and you have the place and you have the means to say, hey, I want to go and look this up. Is this guy telling the truth? I want that video. I want this. I want that. And they could go in a skiff. They could do whatever they got to do. And let me tell you something. The president, if something wasn't needed to be declassified, I believe that the president of the United States would declassify something as long as it doesn't jeopardize security, but would declassify it to get the truth out. Because look at all the truth that's coming out about him with that lady, Eugene Carroll, whatever her name was. She
oh,
Yeah.
lied,
yeah,
got paid billions of dollars to lie, and all this nonsense. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. Tina Peters, another one, suffered all this time, got weaponized for telling the truth and knowing that something was coming out. So I believe that over the next few weeks, that there's going to be some serious information that comes out, not only for January 6th, but comes out for election about what happened, what's going to go on. And I believe that Tulsi um, is going to be going out in style, and she's going to be leaving us as the patriot that she is, and she's going to put a lot of things out on Front Street, in my opinion. So,
I
but
sure.
those are the stories that people don't know about the J6ers that died that day
Mhm.
and all the things that they lost. And I'm fortunate. I'm very fortunate that I do have a good support system, and God has been leading me on this thing. I'm just a business owner, and here I am. But I'm going to use my voice that they gave me. They put me on a national stage, and I'm going to use it for the betterment of society and for the cause, because you know everything happens for a reason. So, and I'm going to use it to the best of my ability, because they can't take anything else from me. They took it all. So it's only from the ground up,
Oh,
now.
you're very light.
Right.
Now
Well,
you're very,
that's the most dangerous person is somebody with nothing to lose.
And that's what they didn't think about.
Yeah.
They thought I was just going to ride off into the sunset because I had so much to lose. Well, they
Yeah.
thought wrong.
well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming and telling your story, because our audience, I'm sure, will enjoy hearing this. And
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. If anybody has any questions, you guys could find me on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, X, and all them. All my contact information is there. So if anybody has any questions for me, or wants me to talk in greater detail, just reach out. Selena, you have all my contact information as well.
I do. So,
Perfect.
all
We can
right.
put that in the show notes, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
Jonathan, I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me. And if you guys need something, just reach out.
Appreciate that. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for joining us today. It's
You're
always
welcome.
it's funny because I was before this I was on a 2 hour call and she was talking about a lot of different issues that you brought up, but not from the J6 perspective, but just stuff that they've uncovered on the local side that's basically following the same path, which is there's like an invisible hand of people that are like moving stuff behind the scenes and trying to shape some of these elections that it just doesn't make any sense. So it's weird how it's connected between what you're saying and what I've heard from other people. So I think you're right that there is probably going to be a lot of stuff coming out, especially on election fraud. And how long does she have left, Tulsi, before she officially steps away? Is
Oh,
it
the end of June.
the end of June?
Yeah.
Her
Yeah.
husband went into surgery today, by the way.
Oh,
So,
Okay.
really? I didn't know that.
yeah. Yeah,
I
she
didn't know that.
put a really nice little note on X to say thank you for all the support that she's been getting, and thank you for all the prayers and all that, that stuff, so that,
I,
so, of course, we're
yeah.
hoping that everything goes well.
And Bill Pulte just got named to
Yeah,
her position.
yeah, he's going to be taking care of things for a while.
So
And and of course, Jim Himes has already been complaining about that. So,
You're gonna
it
see I think you're gonna see a big name floated for Attorney General soon too. And I think the shakeup there is gonna be quite surprising. And I think people are gonna be excited when they hear that name. So there's some big things I believe that are going to be coming down the pike soon, and you know, God's driving it. It's on God's time, not our time. Even though we want
right.
to put our foot on the gas, but the closing credits are coming soon, right?
we got to be
Yeah.
patient. Hard to be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Trying.
Well, it's not like we got a choice. So it's like
Right, right.
it's either like
Yeah,
say you got this, or
yeah. Well, I mean,
be
if
stressed about it. So
I mean, if you're a nerd and you go back and you look, you start reading some of the executive orders that Trump has put down in the first term. I mean, he put this stuff down in 2018 before the midterms about election fraud, 13848, where they find you anybody in this country or around the world, if they find you're involved with it, Venezuela, Maduro, uh, they confiscate, freeze everything, just like they did to us J6ers, and that's it. That's the end of it. Um, and that was put in an executive order that President Biden continued and is still current to this day. I mean, there's a lot of things, and that's how I learn is I read, and when I say things, people are like, how did you find that out? Well, I just read it. Um,
Out there for crying out loud. The information is out there if you go looking, but you got to go look.
right, right. So there's a lot of things I think that need to that are been talked about for years, but they're coming out to the open because the timeline now is getting closer and closer and closer that it's coming. So, but we'll see. Hopefully everything
Yeah.
works out and there'll be some people that deserve prosecution.
That would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of swing it the other way so that it's not always the right getting attacked and prosecuted for once.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have a lot, you have a lot of these people that we were just talking about before, the
Yeah.
ones that did the committed the crime, did the deed, did this, did that, and then they walked away and they said, "Oh no, that's the guy you need to arrest over there. He's the one that did it," and they
Hmm.
arrested that guy, and they're still scot-free walking around. Well, I think their day is now coming because if they could find out who I am, you know, and they could find out who everybody is. Let me tell you, there's no privacy anymore. As much as I'm against it, I mean, look at what these flock cameras. Every municipality saw dollar signs in the state of Connecticut, and people they're popping up left and right everywhere.
Yeah.
Even in here in Derby, that's a whole nother podcast in itself. But let me tell you, they're not just holding that data, no matter if you subscribe or not. They're sharing it with everybody over the whole
Yeah. Yes, they
Yeah.
absolutely
United States. So you know, those are things that people just need to know. But I believe that we're in a good spot and some good things are going to be happening. We got the 250th celebration coming, and
are. Yeah.
don't forget, what is there like 8 billion people in the world, and 4 billion are going to be watching the World Cup coming up here in a
Oh
few
yeah.
weeks. So a lot of eyes on that, and that'd be a good time to,
And we're getting UFC on the White House lawn.
Oh my
yeah.
God, the amount of people that have been complaining about that, about saying, "Oh, Trump turned it into trash." It's like, shut up. It's like,
Let me tell you, do you know it? Here's another thing too. If you know where to go look, he's been cleaning up DC. Not he
Oh,
just didn't start it now. This has been
right.
going on since he got into office in
yeah,
16. Okay, and the reflecting pool. Do you see how much work is going into
yeah,
that? There's a
yeah. They just
lady
finished.
that's down there every single day documenting all of it, and she's a reporter. I think I forget her name, and she's not into the trades like I am, but she's showing the stuff that the guys are doing, and I'm like, wow. And that's what I do. I'm a concrete guy. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that's not easy, number one, what they're doing. But number two, they're doing it the right way. This isn't just put some lipstick on a pig and call it a day.
Right.
So, and on top of that, you just don't get in office 6 months ago and say, go fix it. This is stuff that has been drawn up, worked up, approved, bid out, and now the work is getting done. And let me tell you, if you're a contractor for the federal government, like I used to be before all this happened, it doesn't happen overnight, let me tell you. So there's a lot of stuff that's been going on that just has been going over everybody's head. So
Yeah. So I will say one thing before we leave, which is the guy
sure.
that just took over Tulsi's job went to Northwestern at the same time Ryan Fazio went to Northwestern. They're about
Really?
this. So he's 38, Fazio's 35, and they both went to Northwestern.
I just got something on my phone that I can't see right now, but it just said something about Fazio. Somebody just texted it to me. I don't know what it said, but now that you said that, that's crazy. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
That's
So it could be like first thing he does is release some information and maybe it highlights Connecticut.
Yeah. So let me tell you something real quick before we leave about Ryan Fazio. I mentioned to you that I was the keynote speaker down in Bridgeport at the Lincoln Day dinner.
Hmm.
I didn't know who Ryan Fazio was. He's down from like 26, Senate District 26 or something. Anyway, I get there. I knew a lot of people that were there, but this is before he was even engaged, before he was even running for governor, before he was even thinking about it, in my opinion. He came down to that dinner and he sat there, him and his girlfriend, which is now his fiance,
Fiance, yep.
and him and her sat at the table. They listened to me speak. We talked. My wife and his wife, or fiance Amy, they got along great, and we bullshitted for a half hour there. And not for nothing, but that stuck out to me because he was a sitting senator at the time, coming to see me speak. Number one,
Hmm.
he didn't even have to go. Why did he
Right.
go? How he got there? I don't know. But he just didn't blow me off either. So when I found out he was going to be running for governor at the time, and I was up at the Capitol testifying a bunch of times and whatnot, but it just always stuck out in my head that this guy is somebody special. He's going to do great things because if you don't care what people think about you and you want to come listen to me and somebody could take your picture there and ruin your chances,
Hmm.
like that stuck out to me, and he might not even knew he was going to run for governor at the time, and I'm just what about, but
Right.
that stood out to me and I respected him for that. And you know I fully support Ryan. I think he's going to do good things. I think we got a great chance to win, and being part of and working through that convention, um, it was a great honor. Nobody could have told me where we ended up Saturday afternoon that that's where we were going to be up until Friday morning. I
Hmm.
would have bet my last dollar and said, no way that that's going to happen. But this is the first time in a long time, and there's people that are willing to get involved and do a lot of good things to help the party
Yeah.
than we've seen in a long time.
Got a good ticket.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some good, really good people on there. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm cautiously optimistic.
I am too. I think that this has gotten a lot of the grassroots people involved,
Yeah.
And we're
and
not done yet. Where
yeah.
it's still building.
Well,
And
that's
Still
and
building.
this is one of the reasons why I got involved because when you decide that, oh, how do I get involved? Let me go do that. You you can't just snap your fingers and go and do that. You're stuck with the
right.
same people because nobody thought about it. So this is years in the making, and that's exactly when I started.
Hmm.
How do I get on there? Who votes for chairman? What do I do this? How do I do that? And so now people see if I can do it. I'm nobody. I'm just a Gino from Derby, smallest city, right? Business owner, construction guy. And I can do these things. That means that you can do it too. And now that I know how to do it, you call me, you say what you want to do, and I'm going to help you do it. And you don't have to be, some guy with six figures in his wallet to go be this and be that. You don't have to do any of that. You could be a common person, run for these positions, and do these jobs, and really get involved and help. You don't have to be the upper elite class anymore, like people used to be or thought they had to be.
Yeah.
So. I think that this is a big change coming in the future.
Yeah, yeah. No, I wouldn't say that I'm cautiously optimistic. I think it's called quiet confidence, which is I am so confident that we are going to win that I just don't need to say it because I know how this is going to work. Because I don't think I've ever seen this many grassroots people front and center of the Republican side pushing to have all these people elected. And that's what our
Yep.
state has not had is the
Yep.
fringe groups working together to come up with a whole strategy, which is normally what you see on the Democratic side. And now on the Democratic side, you see all that infighting between their own party with now they're primarying each other, which it's the Republicans' time to take advantage of them fighting with each other. And now we don't have to spend against each other like we've had in past elections, where most of these candidates can just go, let's just go straight to making our point that they don't even agree with each other, so why would you agree with them?
Yeah,
Let's,
100%.
yeah,
And that's a great point. And you nailed it. It's the grassroots organizations, the grassroots people that finally said enough is enough. And there are some people that are connected, like myself, to the grassroots people where you actually have a phone and you could pick up and say, "Hey, Gino, what about this?" And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of us, but we've never had that before. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
A
So now
representative
the people, the grassroots people, feel like that they have the bat phone and they could call in
right,
and say, "What's going on?" No, we're happy with this. No, we're not. And we kind of cut the upper echelon right out of it, to
yeah,
be honest with you.
yeah.
And and I think that has put a lot of eyes on the situation. And that's what I mean. God has got his hand in this, and I think this is going to be the time.
Excellent. And on that note, I think we'll step out, and I'll close us with God bless America and God bless Connecticut, and may we all be blessed. And you guys have a great afternoon. And
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
oops, hang on. I gotta get this done. Oops. Yep, there we go.